And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another Tosh News. We are on the ninth one of the second season, and it's been a hell of a rollercoaster of a season so far. As you can see from the meme on the screen, it's a bit of a rollercoaster in America. Some would say a nosedive. It's not quite that bad. For you lot on the panel, it's in the other side of the hill. The meme. It's the one with
The
Biden.
stock prices?
Yeah, the stock price and
Yeah.
Biden.
Yeah.
Why is that happening?
Because of the tariffs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Put 25% tariffs on everyone, like your market's crashing. It's not.
It's the war part of trade war.
Yeah, like he's damaged himself, along with everyone else, obviously, and no one's particularly happy about it. But I think a little bit like that woman said in the Brexit debate, like, yeah, GDP is going down, but it's not like that's your GDP, you elite. It's not ours.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know how popular or unpopular it is, but yeah, I mean,
I think
go on.
I imagine the MAGA base quite like the tariffs. Like when he goes with
Yeah.
Trudeau going, "We're going to tariff you," and they go, "Oh yeah, I'll tariff you harder." I think that plays quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, before we properly get into it, let's introduce the panel. So it's a bunch of returning guests. So obviously we've got my co-host Tharium. Hello, Tharium.
Hello. Hello.
I've been obviously you'll be on Laughing at the Guardian this weekend, but my brother's coming on as well, and he's basically been asking what he needs and what to expect and like who's on. And I was like, oh, basically there's this guy called Tharium, and I think he's basically going to try and argue with you a lot, like one of his friends did on his stag do. You definitely are.
No.
And
no. I'm on his side. Labour's a good thing.
well, maybe not. Maybe on other topics then. But I also said he's definitely going to call you more slurs than your friends called me, which he did laugh at. So I think he's looking forward to it. Yes.
Has your brother done a DNA test?
No, he's not.
At
least not that I'm aware
he's
of.
more English than you.
I'd actually commit forever sleep if that happened. I wouldn't be happy. Anyway,
He just absorbed all your parents' English DNA, left you none.
I do like how Cero's laughing at that as well.
Harry's Welsh anyway.
No,
Sorry,
Scottish. Scottish. I at least want to be
cope.
Scottish. Oh no.
Let's just cope. You're Welsh.
Anyway, we've also got
Keep him
Cero.
away from sheep.
We've also
Hello.
got Cero returning. Hello, Cero. And finally, yes, we have LM making his return as well.
Hello.
Hello. Right. Well, I mean, we always start with international news. I suppose we've touched on this, but I don't know. The one thing actually I was saying to Cero before the stream: why is Trump attacking Canada? Why is he putting tariffs on Canada? That's one thing I just don't understand.
Because they're really gay.
But that's
Because
like,
he
think
wants
that
them
might
to
be
do
it.
stuff.
but isn't that like really stupid policy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I thought they had a pretty good trading relationship, the two countries.
Because the problem is as well, if you put tariffs on absolutely everything to Canada, plus it's just up them to 50%, I'm pretty sure Canada are a primary resource country, so they dig up things and what have you, and then send them to America for like the car industry and things like that.
Yeah.
So if that's propped up with that trade now, that all now costs 1.5 times what it used to. That ain't good. It's kind of no wonder this is all happening. You know, Amazon's down 5% nearly.
There was that. So there's one, I think in one of the states in America, they get some of their power from Canada.
Yeah.
Canada was saying that they'd cut them off.
Yeah. Well, that's why Trump reacted with 50% tariffs and was like, "You can't do this to me." It's like, and I'm just confused. But I've not talked to many Americans. I've not seen many Americans talk about it, which right-wing Americans talk about it, which leads me to believe they actually probably don't think it's a good idea.
I saw a bit from Styx saying it was a good thing. I know, yeah, bit weird, but he's in favour of it.
I heard quite a lot of sort of varying ideas on it, but nothing that I've sort of put too much into at the moment. One of the things is I'm trying to remember this correctly, but one of the things is sort of a a bit of a proxy attack at some of the Chinese influences within Canada, but I'm not sure if I'm remembering that quite correctly. But there are quite a few interesting theories as to why. I think it mostly is just the fact that he probably is letting it happen because if he wins this game of chicken, I think this is the most likely thing. If he wins the game of chicken and everyone else backs down, then he will be triumphant. And people did say that, you know, if you have tariffs, things are going to get more expensive at first, and he said so himself. So this would be the things are getting more expensive at first. That would definitely be the case. Whether it's a good thing or not long term, I guess that depends on how quickly those percentages start bouncing back up. Because even if he starts tariffing now, you won't notice any actual tangible difference, maybe for at the very least months.
I
know,
mean, yeah.
so
I just reckon this is going to be one of those things that give it kind of a week or two, and Trump's probably going to go back on it, and then you'll probably see a massive uptick in all this. And it's like, oh, Trump saved the economy.
We do have the new Canadian Prime Minister now.
What, Mark Carney?
Yeah.
Oh, the crazy one.
The old Bank of England guy, yeah. Who's like
Incredible.
Trudeau but worse.
Yeah. It's
Poor
impressive.
Canada.
I didn't know it was possible, but it happened.
Poor Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
To be fair, actually, this is a bit of a godsend, because this might sound funny. This is actually a godsend because when Trump started talking about 51st state, apparently the Liberals, and you might have noticed in Discord me chatting with JFC about this, but apparently the Liberals got a huge bump because basically somehow their Liberal Party is also kind of their more nationalist party. I heard that elsewhere. And so the Liberals, even though they were going to have a landslide loss, when Trump started saying, oh, 51st state,
Yeah.
they bumped. And so I'm thinking that if they have a guy in who's even worse than Trudeau, then that might allow those approval numbers to drop again before the election. I don't know if that's going to be the case. You know. But yeah, so this will either be really, really bad or really good. So good luck,
one
Canada.
The things like Americans don't really get is that when they sort of talk about invading like other countries and stuff, even if like we're generally supportive of them, that talk just no one likes that.
I mean, if they wanted to take the UK, I mean, you know, just
No.
Stop, no.
No.
Oh, Sarah, don't make me invoke
That's the thing, like-
ethno-nationalist talking points. Come on, man.
It's like when it comes to like foreigners, it giving like even if it's fair criticism that I agree with of my country is like, oh, piss off. I don't want to hear it from you.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
second
no, I totally
the
get that.
US takes over, they're going to add for H-1B visa here. It'll get worse.
Oh no.
My.
We'll get more 7-Elevens.
Love to see it. Right, I think with that though we can get into the video. What?
Did the Ukraine stuff that didn't happen last
Oh,
time?
sorry.
Last news one, had we?
Sorry. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, Ukraine. Was the JD Vance Zelensky meeting? I think that was actually within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was the last. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we didn't cover
we
that.
have covered that.
We didn't.
No, I don't think we've covered it
No,
before.
I don't think we did. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll cover it again anyway. Yeah, I thought televising that was stupid.
Yeah. I don't know whose idea that was.
But God,
I mean, like all of them, like Zelensky doing the sukkah. Like, oh come on, really.
Well,
It's but though I think that I actually remember looking at it and thinking to myself, this doesn't this reaction, this didn't come out of nowhere, and it seems that it's partly because a lot of the frustration was actually built up, I think, from like previous conversations, and basically got to a point where they were like, okay, we've come to an agreement. Let's smile for the cameras. And then that was when things started kicking off, and that was when they started getting really annoyed. But because we only saw the last part of it, the media just went wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and the the whole thing, all sides were just like, I think there was the 2 foreign secretaries of each country, just heads in hands.
Oh,
the
heads
whole
in
thing.
hands. Yeah,
I think it was the
everyone getting
ambassador. Yeah,
annoyed. Yeah.
I just
Zelensky
I
getting kicked out of the White House. It's
I felt the worst for that Ukrainian ambassador or whatever foreign secretary.
just a
Because
mess all
she
around.
was just curled over, head in hands.
Absolutely no advisor was happy with that, and I think both advisors on both sides were like, "Do not televise this." But
Please,
they did.
yeah.
Although,
I love the fact that right at the sorry, go with that.
no, you go first.
I was just going to say that right at the end, Trump was like, "It'll make a television."
And it
I
did.
mean, it does seem like Trump won that because Ukraine then came back and said,
Well,
"Yeah,
he's got his
we'll give you
ceasefire,
minerals.
doesn't he? Yeah,
We'll give you
yeah.
your minerals." After all of Europe went
Well,
together and
it's-
goes, "Don't worry, Ukraine,
Yeah,
we'll protect
after
you." And they
all of
went,
Europe,
"Oh."
come together and say, "Oh, we'll help you, Ukraine." Ukraine take that semi-seriously, and then Europe basically have to say, "Hang on, that's going to take a few years,"
Yeah,
which is pretty dire. But
yeah.
it's what
That's
happens
the
when
point
you
where
put all your eggs in that basket.
Can you wait 5 business years?
Yeah, just like wait a sec, we need to spin up our steel mills again just so that we can start manufacturing again.
Right. Anyway, I think with that, yes, we will go into the news. I've just realised that stream are seeing a blank screen, so that's fun. There we go. now they can see it. I just need to. Oh god! Right, chat. It's gonna be fine. They can see it, by the way. Nigel Farage is behind a witch hunt, says Reform MP Rupert Lowe. So I think, I mean, we could go into detail on it, but to be honest, I'm so into this story, I kind of know every detail. But I suppose we should get the Times' report on it. So Lowe accused Farage of a vindictive witch hunt after he was suspended by the party in a messy public row involving claims of bullying and smearing. While Lowe faces claims of aggressive behaviour, he accuses Farage and allies of briefing that he has dementia in a sick attempt to discredit him. Again, I think Lowe has been absolutely phenomenally unprofessional over the past 3 or 4 days. And I keep hearing people saying, "Oh, but what would you do if you were accused of things like this?" Yeah. And I was like, well, MPs have been accused of things like this and they stay quiet until it's over. You know, that's typically what happens here. Like, this is very odd that he's going off on one on it. And as I always bring up, the case he had to correct him when he said there was no evidence. Like,
oh well, that doesn't really mean anything.
No, okay, no, I'm sorry. That does mean something. That means that Rupert, because I'm sorry. Have you seen the text of what he was advised to say? Because it was absolutely nothing to do with evidence. He's basically lied to us. Frankly,
I mean, all his staff say it's all made up as well.
Yeah, but again, I mean, sure, but the problem you're gonna have is that these
Nigel
bullying
said that I mean, he could have got that wrong. Like, Nigel said that Rupert was informed on the 29th of February, but there was no 29th of February.
Oh, come on.
What?
Yeah, he obviously meant the last day of February. It's not. I'm hardly.
People can get things wrong.
I'm sorry, Tharium. I'm not Tharium. It's a little bit different, isn't it?
I'm just. It doesn't mean it. Just saying like he said something wrong doesn't mean that he's guilty. That's all.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not saying he's guilty though. I'm saying that brings everything he says into question. We have more reason to give credibility to Reform's side of the story than Rupert Lowe's. But one, for that fact alone, but also Rupert can't actually keep his story straight, and it's another thing people don't seem to be talking about. You know, he constantly says the easiest one is that day one, everyone established that. I did a video on it, for God's sake. Everyone established, even Rupert Lowe himself, that these bullying claims were about people within his office, and he didn't comply with his duty of care when complaints were made. That's what it is. And yet, even today, there's been, or it might have been yesterday, there was who was it? I think it was Howard Cox. Who's like, one of the people has just come out and said these accusations aren't about Low bullying. And then Rupert Lowe's like, oh, see, this isn't about me bullying people, it's about people under me. And it's like, sorry, that was established a few days ago, and you acknowledge that. So try and keep your story straight here.
But then you also mentioned that there's a third possible option, which is that Reform's comms are literally this bad.
Well, no. Well,
so that's also another possibility.
Oh well, Reform's initial.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that vindicates them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that that's also a. Well, it's also damning.
Reform.
But it could be that their comms are also really bad.
Well, no. Reform clearly have the position of let Rupert run his mouth off and make corrections where we can. That's their position at the moment, and that's why Lee came out and said, "Sorry, but Rupert." Can't. Well, that's why Rupert came out and said Rupert has had to be corrected by the KC, and then reiterated the facts of the case that we know so far. That's their position on it, which is the much more professional position. But Rupert Lowe's running his mouth off and can't keep his story straight. The other one, by the way, was he keeps claiming that he didn't know an investigation was going into him until like the 7th of March. But then he tweeted, "Oh, I've been asking for evidence for 11 days." Which on the day he did it, that went back to the 28th, not 29th of February. So he actually did know. He admitted himself. So he can't even keep his story straight, and absolutely nobody is acknowledging that on the online right, and it's really bothering me. Like, another point on this, by the way, Ben Habib, who, not the online right seems to have seems to be split on, but we were very much Ben Habib's a massive, I nearly swore, a massive T word. And not only that, Rupert Lowe...
No, wait.
Yeah, tranny.
Well, Rupert Lowe has also said on camera multiple times he's basically out to get Farage. He doesn't like Farage. He wants to undermine him at every turn. And then we find out that he sent a text on the 28th, the same day that we know that Rupert knew that he was being investigated. We don't see what... message came before this one, by the way. We only know this text, but we know that that Ben Habib basically said resign and start crafting a narrative. Long and short of it, that's what his text was. So he's not resigned, so he didn't follow that piece of advice. However, I think we can agree he's crafting a narrative, and whether the narrative's true or not is by the by. He's followed exactly what Ben Habib said, and I've also led to believe that Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe have basically been having regular contact throughout this whole time. I basically think, and also we've had other people who are ex-Farage, the scorned by Farage lot. They've been in contact with Lowe as well, and they're like, oh, I sent text to him in December saying that Farage's going to backstab him. I basically think what's happened is that a lot of people have made Rupert Lowe effectively paranoid, and then it's basically bubbled up into this, and because of that, he's got into arguments with them. He's relatively pro-Tommy compared to the rest of them. Clearly Reform want nothing to do with Tommy, and Rupert Lowe keeps... he's in Parliament asking, is the Justice Secretary going to do anything about Tommy Robinson? He's on interviews saying Tommy Robinson, should he be in solitary confinement? I would hope that he's treated the same as anyone else. Well, his barrister requested he go to solitary, so yes, he is. Then when he's asked to actually know the details of the case and why Tommy's in jail, he says no. It's all very much stuff you'd expect from basically a Tommy simp. And I think behind the scenes what's happened is that's grated, along with possibly... other behaviour, let's say, at least if Farage is to be believed. Basically that's grated on everyone, and then it's come to a head here. Has he threatened Zia Yusuf? I don't know. If you watch Dan Wootton's show, I think the claim was that he threatened to slash Zia's throat, which obviously he denies. I think he says, oh, that was misinterpreted. I'd say we slashed the throat of the party, which I'm not going to lie, that is not an idiom I've heard before, but okay. As in, slash the throat of a person makes sense. Slash the throat of an institution. Tell me if I'm going a bit harsh there.
I have heard similar, but there's...
Well, destroy the party, but...
There is a time and a place for these things, and...
the point...
it's not the kind of idiom that I would use, especially in
So
unless I'm sort of with people that I'm very personable with and they know my intention from saying it, kind of thing.
The point I want to make on that slash the throat thing is, so assuming I'm not saying it is true. We don't know. We don't even know if that's necessarily the threat being alleged. But if that is actually true, and I see anyone on the online right saying, "What? That's ridiculous. Nobody would take that threat seriously." I'd like to remind you all that we were for a Labour councillor to be sacked and jailed for making that exact same threat about fascists during the Southport riots. I would like to point that out, so I'm getting that out in advance.
No, because private conversations are different from like a public address like that.
I would agree. I think the private conversations are probably more credible.
Yeah, and no, I mean, like I said,
severity.
we threaten violence against each other all the time. Doesn't mean anything.
No,
But if I got out onto like the BBC and said, "Hey everyone, slash Harrian's throat," I think you'd think that was a bit worse.
Well, I mean, I'm not being funny, but did anyone around that councillor take him seriously when he said slash their throats? You know what I mean? He's still at the very least got investigated for it.
I mean, but that's not how our law works. It doesn't work.
I
agree.
I
it's
agree.
Not only when someone acts on it. I am more of the agree. I am more of the position that no one acted on it, but.
Well, I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny. He at least got investigated. So if this is the accusation, and there's some credibility to it, I at the very least the investigation was legitimate in my opinion. But there we go. But I mean, I have just been astonished by how hysterical the online right have been on this entire thing. All charity is given to Rupert, none to Reform, despite, as I say, we have less reason to believe Rupert because a case he had to come out and correct him.
I mean, there's no real reason to believe one or the other yet.
Tharium, we've had multiple conversations.
Yeah,
about
I know,
this.
and at the end of the day, both sides, it's just gut feeling, really.
I wouldn't agree that I have a gut feeling on this. I have gone through this basically saying, well, who's right? Because I want to know if I can trust Reform or not. I'm not. If it turns out Reform cannot be trusted as the outcome of this, I'll be disappointed. But you can say sunk cost fallacy and all that. But at the end of the day, the most I've done is 25 quid into their kitty, and I've been to a few meetings, and it's kind of like that's not as sunk cost as some other people maybe in the Worcester Club, let's say. So I just want to know, can I trust Farage or not? I mean, as I say, from everything I see, I don't think it's a gut feeling. I think this all comes from the evidence and facts that we can actually establish.
I mean, we have no actual facts though, other than like
we have the fact that there is evidence. We know there's evidence. Well, okay, I'll put it.
We have accusations. We have accusations.
No, Tharium. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Dan Wootton interview. This is why it's so stupid. On the Dan Wootton interview, what's it called? Rupert Lowe was going through like evidence. He's like, this was in WhatsApp messages. Someone called someone else a silly tart. Like that seems to be the evidence of it. And I'm like, so you're saying there's no credible evidence or whatever, and it's like, well, we actually now have evidence from you, and like the slash the throat thing that's being brought up as well. And yes, sure, he's trying to say it's he's saying I want to slash the throat of the party, and I'm like, oh, this is why you shouldn't talk about this stuff in public, because now people are hearing, oh, there actually is credible evidence to all this, while you said there isn't. So this is what I mean. Rupert Lowe genuinely he's acting one really unprofessionally, but two, he's said some really stupid things and done some stupid things over the weekend that really needs to be acknowledged here.
I'll keep going. I'm definitely not talking to chat.
I mean, your position, Tharium, before stream, it was effectively you got feelings on Rupert's side, but you're open to either side being in the right here. And you actually hope your gut feeling's wrong, which I thought was actually kind of more moderate than I thought it would be.
Because if it does turn out that, Nigel and Zaya actually are just containment, that's like, oh, fuck's sake, now we've got to start all over again with this shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's incredibly damning, but then also, I think that would fully fracture between the, what would you call them, the dork right, and there wouldn't really be any coming back from that, I don't think. And the problem is that we need, as much as we don't like it, we will need we will need most of the quote unquote right, including moderates and including some of the, not all, but some of the dork right. We will need everyone, you know, to get reform or whatever party. Hopefully, there'll be reform, whatever. But for us to get what we want, we can't allow any more fracturing. And the thing that I'm most terrified about is if, and I said this, you know, similar to Tharium's view, which is that my instant inclination is to want to err on the side of, I want to err on the side of reform being in the right, because if they're not, then that's damning, and that's going to be a public humiliation. And I'm not sure if the party's going to be able to live that one down, not anytime soon anyway. So you know what, I was hoping, like Harrion said, that it would all blow over, but no, everyone has to be stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. The craziest thing of this is just, as I say, the hysterical flag planting of it all. I'm quite open. Well, not from you, not from you.
Flag too. You're planting the flag too, just the other side.
No. My whole point of making my videos on this topic was effectively to say, so all of this stuff is being said. This is why I'm doubtful of it. 20 minutes of evidence, and then I bring in my perspective on it. And my perspective is mostly, right, given all that evidence, Lowe doesn't have much credibility in what he's saying. It could still be true, but if he's mixing up all his stories, and he's literally been told what he said wasn't true, then frankly, there's less credibility in his story. So we're going to have to infer the little that Reform are giving. What Reform are giving is that he's got aggressive behaviour issues. That's what they're saying. We know from public. Well, fair enough. It's one. Don't get me wrong. That one incident in the House of Commons, and it wasn't that bad as people say. I mean, a shove on the shoulder, sure. But you don't. But again, that's in public. You don't know what it's like behind closed doors. Not only that, but from Rupert Lowe's side, he's saying, "Oh, he's now saying it's egos." But you go back a bit, and in interviews he's saying, "Oh, I'm free to say as I will, and like I don't have to hold party line," and then would say something that is way beyond party line that they clearly don't want him saying. Things like mass deportation, stuff on Tommy Robinson, stuff like that. And so
egos is a problem. Like, no, you can't deny that Farage doesn't have a big ego.
In every political, it's so pointless to say though, because that's going to be the case in every single political dispute internally.
The British right do seem to have a serious problem with it though.
Oh, definitely. Oh, it's true of the it's true of online personalities as well. Like, it is absolutely true. Whereas, obviously, I'm the type that's just bullied by everyone, so I think my ego is pretty well in check. But
like, compared to the Americans, they seem to have more all fallen in line.
Yeah,
more so.
Yeah.
Whereas here, everyone wants to be the great leader. Really, well, everyone wants to be in charge.
Basically, everyone on the right wants to be Farage. Yet only Farage can be Farage. I mean, I said this on Twitter as well. You know, all these people who've come out of their holes to say, "Oh, you know, Nigel Farage is this manic, egotistical maniac. If you don't do what he says, you get sacked and what have you." And I'm just thinking, sorry, but all you people, like, not all of them, but a lot of them, you know, someone like Ben Habib. Ben Habib got jealous because Farage took over and, took over, quote unquote. He was begged to come back. So he did, and put work into the damn thing, and then had to say to Ben Habib, "Sorry, you're not an MP. You can't be deputy leader anymore. We hope you'll stay in the party and help out." And he didn't, and got bitter from it all. And he's been unable to make his own movement since. You know, his pack or whatever he's made, it's gone nowhere. It looks like a money laundering scheme. It's that useless. You know, it's happened with Godfrey. Sorry, just all the examples. Godfrey Bloom as well. What's he done since? Well, he chats on a few shows, but he's not seen anywhere. You know, Jared Batten, God knows where he is. Douglas Carswell, well, he went over to America. Like, these people aren't capable of doing what Farage does, and I basically think that it's all cope from them for their own personal failures and not being, frankly, as good at this as Nigel Farage is. And I think the same's happening with Lowe. Like, yeah, okay, he's got the online popularity, but obviously it's early days. Don't get me wrong, but like we saw some of our friends go to a reform meeting somewhere in the south, I think it was, and there was a Trump impersonator, and apparently a lot of the skits were like basically bashing Rupert Lowe, and people were laughing. It's like Rupert Lowe's popularity is pretty majorly online.
We've also got to accept that there's a big difference between the people who go to a reform meeting and the general reform voters.
Yeah, sure, fine. Well, as I say, it's early days as well, but this doesn't seem to be having at least a major effect in the polls. The reform membership, the highest number I've seen is like 2,000 people leaving, which 1%. Okay, it's like not. It's not insignificant.
Again,
not
I imagine
massive.
it's a bit like, but I assume it's a bit like Netflix subscriptions. People will just not bother to renew. They won't bother to go through the effort of.
Possibly,
cancelling.
yeah, possibly. No, that's perfectly valid to say. We don't really know how much damage this has done. I'm totally fine saying that, but
and like the polls we've seen about this are all over the place.
Yeah,
some it's like 90% think it's bad, 90% think it's fine. It's like, which is it?
The worst poll. Go on, Sarah. Sorry, I've talked way longer.
It's a little bit of a detour, but
fine.
So you want to mention the polls? So I would say carry on.
Okay. Well, the only one I was going to say was obviously the worst one I've seen is that YouGov poll where it's like a third of the party thinks the party would. I think it was voters thought the party would do better under someone else in leadership. I'm not saying it's fake in any way. In fact, it probably is true because voters are fickle. I totally understand that. I'd say wait it out, obviously, to these people, but I'd find it hilarious that people who would say, "Oh, it's from YouGov, I'm going to ignore it." They put it in their videos, in their tweets, like, "Oh, look, Farage is over." It's like, sorry. I think Ballo brought up the Callum tweet, like where he basically said he didn't believe that most of the UK was in favour of Ukraine. Because of that YouGov poll, because it was a YouGov poll. It's like, but you believe this one straight away. I think Tharium, even you admit, a lot of people have lost credibility over this last weekend over this.
Not yet, because we still don't know anything.
No.
If we're being honest, it could go either way. This whole thing. So
I'm sorry, but I've tweeted Carl just before the show because he's just done another video on the Rupert Lowe thing. I said, you're going through this character assessment of Lowe. Why didn't you bring up the KC, the KC thing? You didn't even bring it up, and he basically said it's not relevant. I'm sorry, but that is totally ruining his credibility as a journalist. Totally ruining it. He's not being impartial. How is that not relevant to a character assessment of Rupert Lowe? That an official, like the official KC of the case, has had to say he's lied about what I said.
Yeah, but Stedman, who is in law, didn't, said it doesn't necessarily mean.
So
stuff.
He doesn't. No. I'm sorry. It means about as much as his office giving him a positive character assessment, like his witness testimony. But this one's actually a bit more credible because her literal job and her career is on the line if she lies. Which is what I've tried to say in multiple places.
No, I'm not saying she's lying.
No,
I'm just saying, like,
sure.
She's just sort of putting out the legal statement. Oh, no. This isn't what I said. That doesn't make Lowe guilty.
I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm saying that if you're making a character assessment of him, and we have an official assessment that he lied about what a KC said,
but like,
that brings his character into question.
But there is more to him than that. He's been a great MP all this time.
Like, you can bring all that up as well. My point is that they are only bringing up positive aspects of him and completely ignoring this rather fucking large negative.
Well, it's just we disagree on how big it is as of a negative.
I'm sorry, I can't agree that a man who is constantly changing his story and has had it in an official statement from a KC that he lied about what she said does not in some way indicate something about his character. If you are doing a character assessment of him, it's relevant at the very least.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
That's just. And
It's just
this is the
it's just-
hysteria I'm
to me-
talking about,
to
though.
me,
Like, it's your
not-
perspective.
I'm not being very hysterical. It's just lawyer talk to me. That's what it came off as.
We've got £5 from. Does it seem strange to anyone that the same week Starmer goes far right, that Reform decides to implode, or am I just imagining conspiracy? No, I think that is coincidence. How did Starmer go far right?
Is he talking about? I will send every young British person to die for Ukraine.
I have no idea. I can't remember.
I have flat feet. I'm exempt from the draft. Hooray! I get to live.
Harry's going to develop gout again.
Sorry, Carl has doubled down on it's not germane to the point, so I am going to say to him, if you're doing a character assessment on the man, it's probably important to acknowledge negative aspects too. So I'm being told to stop being tiresome by Carl. Just absurdity. I'm sorry, it's relevant. That's just the end of it. I don't even think that's arguable. But anyway, does anyone else want to come in?
I was just going to add that. Sorry, I was going to add that the only parallel I'm thinking of is with Trump and DeSantis. I don't know if this is quite the same thing.
Yeah,
But there was definitely a similar vibe with Trump and DeSantis.
and the same sort of thing. DeSantis had some people talking to him, going, "You should be leader."
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think how that turned out. I guess ultimately it turned out well, but that was partly because
yeah,
because I mean Vance was a very good thing, but originally I think it was actually going to probably be DeSantis. And so, I'm not sure if we have, but I guess maybe that's part of the problem, right? Do we have someone who can fill the space of Lowe, as in having that voice? Because the thing is, it's like we say with a lot of people, like including Carl, right? You know, yeah. Unfortunately, now he is effectively political dynamite. Like, as much as I adore the man, if I was running in Reform, it would be very difficult, for mainstream appeal to be bringing him on, or at least his team, for example. But then there does need to be someone who will say similar things in that avenue. So
it would be great if, like, we could have some of those talking points without someone who's then going to go, "Yeah, but what about the Jews?"
Basically,
right?
yes. Yeah. And I guess that's sort of where I'm starting to and ah, because I actually knew very little about Rupert Lowe prior to all of these shenanigans, but yeah, I'm more concerned now with. Yeah,
I thought he was the best. A lot of people thought he was the best politician in Reform, because whenever Farage was being a bit gay about something, I could always point to, yeah, but look at Rupert. He's the real voice of like what they're actually planning. Farage is just hiding his power levels.
Yeah.
And now that's sort of like, oh.
That's the thing that I'm more concerned about.
Yeah.
Because now there isn't a, like how I mentioned that sometimes I like to sort of keep it in various circles that are even further to my right, but it's a useful way of me gauging where I am. I'm not sure if I don't. This is where the dork right might be right about something. It's unlikely, but they might be right about something in the sense that now are we going to now get lurched to the left because we don't have that you know what I mean?
I'm also, it's a concern for me if it turns out Rupert has been wrong in all this, sure, reform haven't been torpedoed, but then I feel like it's likely they will go, oh look, no more Ruperts, too volatile, too racist, all this crap. Zaya's going to go, look, I've got some cousins, they'd be great, and it's sort of party's going to move like that, and that would really be crap.
But yeah, it's the double-edged sword of being. It was the thing that I was trying to talk about with the Tosh talks, with the recommendation, which I worded awfully, but it is that paradox of wanting to seem approachable by the general public, by the normies, whereas then you have the issue of diluting what you actually want in comparison to what you need to have as palatable for the average person. I don't know if that sentence made any sense. It made sense in my head.
Yeah. I think, like we had talked about this before, I think the normies are more radical than they seem, but like a lot of them, say it's like you've got your old granny who sort of lives alone, and she just hears from the BBC that all the things she thinks makes her a terrible, evil, racist person, and so she never sort of talks about them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but then like you get a few drinks in them, and then suddenly they're telling you about.
Yeah, I've had that too. Yeah.
So
go on, finish off.
No. I made my main point.
Okay, well that's fine because I was just gonna change topic anyway. Which is one. Sorry everyone for the typing. You will sound like my girlfriend, but two. You know before. Well, sorry, you're going to be a bit more relevant, Tharium, because I am going off topic.
No, I was going to say, if you want more on this, we have thousands of messages on the Discord. You can go read through.
Just go watch my videos. Sorry, people are saying that Starmer's gone far right because he's cutting benefits. Yeah, based. But it won't be enough, so I'm still voting reform. Right.
And just really quickly, this is an example of what we meant earlier with the Rupert Lowe thing. Just having the zeitgeist move and having that anchoring point is enough to shift everything. Just having reform there instead of having the Tories there is now already moving the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there are other factors to this as well.
Yeah.
But there is now a more powerful anchoring force.
I'm glad you're saying yeah on this now, Tharium, because you weren't the other day.
It's just the way that we're saying it, you know.
No, I'm talking about having Rupert Lowe there. Is what is good.
Right.
Well, the thing is,
but what I was talking about was then what you're talking about. Then I was talking about the like Carl's point saying reform split the vote and like left to Labour. It was more that people were just sick of the Tories rather than passion for reform.
Yeah, well,
in the last election, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've kind of covered this whole thing anyway. I suppose from the Rupert Lowe side, he's saying he's trying to get kicked out. He's saying it's egos. I just don't buy this. Every time someone's been kicked out of a party, there's been like a genuine reason for it.
Enoch Powell?
No, I mean with Farage. Enoch Powell obviously got kicked out for nonsense. But that was the Tories. No, I'm talking under Nigel Farage. Like, it's usually because they are saying incredibly unelectable things, to put it quite nicely. I don't just mean like it's damaging to like the party getting votes. I mean it's like, what did Godfrey Bloom say? Did he get kicked out for the Bongo Land comment?
I don't know. I didn't know who was in it.
I can't remember who that was, but I remember the event.
Yeah. I know what she got. The woman who founded the Brexit Party, she got kicked out because she had tweets that were very spicy about Islam. Let's say.
Based.
Well,
bring her back.
I can't remember.
Real queen.
I can't remember the details of it, but even I went. I wouldn't expect to stay in a party if I said that. And so, yeah. It's always trumped up. I mean, Ben Habib actually left on his own accord. Howard Cox left of his own accord. Like, people are saying there's, Farage kicks people out. He only kicks people out if there's like, or at least from these examples, if there's actually reason to do so. Otherwise, people seem to just leave their own accord anyway. So I'm not convinced it's ego either. I think these people are just useless, or they leave of their own accord. Because as I say, which one of these people have built anything since leaving?
Well, yeah, but
So I think they're just useless people. Use that as a cope, and I think these accusations of it's all ego is well, as I say, it's a cope that people are just following. For what reason? I don't know. Well, why the Lowe is following it? Because they've been kicked out of Reform as well. Sorry. And again, why were they kicked out of Reform? As we've gone through, legitimate reasons. So.
Bring back Dan.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do.
Well,
find
no,
as
don't
a
bring
problem,
back Dan. He's the worst. Go on, Sarah.
The main problem I have with that isn't necessarily the decision to have them removed or not. It's the fact that, and this is such a red flag for me. I don't know how to feel about this, but it was the hope not hate thing that they were the ones that were kicking off.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you allowing your enemies to audit you? I realize that it looks good in the mainstream to say, oh,
I think
you know what I mean.
I think we need to be a bit more. I mean, no, screw hope not hate, obviously, but we need to be a bit more nuanced about the situation. It's not like hope not hate were making stuff up. I think the funniest part of all this is that hope not hate thing came out, and then both of them said, "Yeah, we stand behind every word." There was not even a chance of denial. I'm sorry, there's more nuance to this. They said stupid things. Hope not hate pointed it out, and they said, "Yeah," they tried to Chad yes it, so they got kicked out. I'm sorry, I've got no sympathy for that.
The thing where Reform took a misstep though is they shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have made it obvious that it was like thanking like hope not hate for it basically.
Yeah,
you should have just ignored that.
Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Kick them out. Say it's for these comments. Yeah, sure. I'm totally for that. That's fine. Yeah. Again, I want to dispel all types of facts that I'm unironically 100% Reform loyalist. Like they do make stupid decisions. Don't get me wrong. Bo made jokes. Yeah, well, unfortunately, he's going into the House of Commons. You're not going in there as a comedian. You're going in there as a politician. It's a serious job. It's a sacred title, to be honest with you.
Unless you're in Ukraine.
Well, that's a corrupt place, isn't it? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't buy the whole joke thing. If it was a joke, you should have said it's a joke, and well, I suppose he did say it's a joke. The problem was he didn't say it was a joke. He said he stands by every word. Oh, but that's a joke too. Well, then it was
the problem is
to make that
we have actually had, like, well, what would you say, a decade of the dirty smear merchants. I guess what would you call it? Like the shadow of the dirty smear merchant, where never back down, never apologize. And yeah, if you're in the media and if you're outside of the if you're outside of the various sort of halls of power or whatever, yeah, absolutely, don't ever apologize. Never apologize unless you've done something wrong, and apologize in person, offline, rather than whatever. So I can actually understand in some respects why they felt the need to double down, but at the same time completely unnecessary for this case, and ended up doing more damage than good. If their goal was power and to get into Parliament, that was the worst thing they could do. But if they wanted to maintain the integrity of the fact that yes, most of these people are dirty smear merchants, then yeah, never back down, never apologize.
Are they too nuanced? I'm sorry. How? But my question back would be: how are they smear merchants if you say yes, I said all that and I stand by every word of it?
No, I'm not saying that they were being smear merchants then. I'm saying that it's the spirit of, like, that's the shadow, the valley of the shadow of the smear merchant. Not to be blasphemous.
Well, I think frankly that there's a time for jokes. That's absolutely fine, and there's a time to be serious. And going into Parliament is serious business. This is effectively what Reform are trying to prove. Like, They're trying to
How-
get
how-
serious now.
Didn't they find like cocaine traces at the party when everyone was locked down?
Loads. All the cocaine was there.
Are you talking about the Tory conference or?
It was Westminster
To
in
be fair,
general.
actually, you know what? I'm not even talking about anything specific. Just a random lucky dip. Pick an event out. There's probably coke at there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Like,
And I guess this is
What?
the thing,
Drugs
right? There's
and
op.
politics.
I know. But the thing is, there's optics, and then there's how things actually work. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, those two things aren't the same thing. And the optics are bad if you're making jokes about the Scottish, Bo.
I'm
But at
sure-
the same time, yeah,
I just,
I'm
I
sure
just,
Bo could have saved it if he hadn't just been all
doubled down.
I'm
fuck
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry.
know.
I'm sorry. I want to point out as well. Do you remember a while ago I was having a back and forth with Bo about this? I actually decided
No.
to go to the I decided to go to the original stream where he said it. Now he was having a conversation with this guy.
I remember actually. Yeah.
Well, he's having a conversation with that guy, and he brings it up in a historical context. He brings it up about Edward Longshanks. He's like, "Oh yes, from this time they've been like a turd that won't flush or something like that." And I'm like, I understand that can be that is a joke. The problem is when I was having that back and forth with him, he started off by saying, I think he basically started off by saying it's a joke. I said, that doesn't really matter. You're going into politics here. You're going into Parliament. Like you can't make jokes that are denigrating to one of the four countries you're supposed to be represent. Well, obviously he's representing his constituency, but you're supposed to be in Parliament, like representing as the party as well. So he's like, oh well, I was talking about it in a historical context. I was like, no, you didn't. I saw the clip. Then he instantly switched tact as well. And I was like, you can't keep this story straight. Like, you screwed up. You stood by it anyway. Like, and then he basically eventually said, oh, well, reforms vetting should have been better. And I basically said, yeah, I agree. Like, you weren't good enough. You were right to be kicked out then. Thanks for agreeing with me. It's total nonsense. Like,
if he
how do you say
if
this without
he'd
being
have-
too insulting?
if he'd have been a bit not so combative and just gone, played it off quite lightly, go, yes, is just engaging the long tradition we have of banter back and forth between the host nations of this wonderful country.
That would have been that probably could
something
have
like
saved it, but he said he stood by it.
rather than just going, fuck you.
Yeah. It was daft. It was daft the way they dealt with it, and they
Was
It's
that the one
ego
when he
problem.
went? I just want to say that I apologize. Paused and then went for absolutely nothing. Was that the one?
Oh, it's probably
Yeah.
it's probably
Yeah,
that.
that
I
was
don't
it.
know. It doesn't. The
I
details
have a
of
very
how
uncanny
he
memory for this kind of thing.
the details of how he said Chad yes doesn't particularly matter in this case, but it's just.
Look, it's because you don't have enough autism. You need a bit more autism.
I'm glad I don't
You
have
can take a few-
too much autism.
If you have as much as I do, yes, I remember those kinds of details for no reason whatsoever. But I do remember that stream.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what I have for breakfast though, or if I had breakfast yesterday, or how I'd feel about it.
Anyway, as I say, I think we've done it to death. I think, I mean, how much point is there going through Rupert Lowe stuff? We kind of all know his side of the story of like he's been thrown under the bus, it's egos and what have you. I don't know. We've gone through it. Rupert Lowe has a side as well. We've all seen it on Twitter.
Just gonna have to wait and see with this whole story.
That, which I want to make clear, that is still my position. My point is that everything that has happened so far, it's not exactly what it's not exactly what I'd expect from someone who's trying to act professional here, and his inability to keep his story straight is very suspicious, and the KC thing is also suspicious. It doesn't lend too much credibility to what he's saying. Doesn't mean it's not true though. You know, he might just have dementia, as apparently the press has been briefed, which I don't even know if that's true either. But well.
I mean, and you could say like this is all like he's not used to this world really.
Who knows? Yeah. EC90 for £2. Remember that time Nigel banged pots and pans for the NHS? Yes. The man is a populist after all. He's going to do popular things. You can think it's cringe. At the end of the day, he understands that he's in politics. So what can you do? Right. Mike Amesbury resignation triggers Runcorn and Helsby by-election. So the man who punched a constituent, or as one of my friends accidentally read, prostitute.
Based.
is resigning as an MP. So I know Reform were trying to get signatures for his for a recall, but turns out they can stop that now and can canvass for a by-election. So a Labour MP jailed for punching. He wasn't jailed, was he? I thought he had a suspended sentence.
Maybe it depends on when this article came out.
It came out today, I think.
Oh, that's
Yesterday, yeah.
Not sure.
Anyway, well, he did get a jail sentence, but I think it's suspended. For punching a constituent, announced on Monday that he was standing down but claimed he was entitled to keep his taxpayer-funded salary because he worked while behind bars. The decision by Mike Amesbury, the MP for Runcorn and Helmsby, means that Sir Keir Starmer faces a fight with Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, in his first by-election test as Prime Minister. It does say he got a suspended 10 weeks prison sentence. Okay. I don't know why they said he was jailed then, because he's technically not been jailed. And he pled guilty in court, because you're not exactly going to get away with that CCTV footage, are you? I want to say, Tori, I was supposed to go canvassing last Sunday, but unfortunately, let's say a family emergency came up. But it's nothing serious, by the way. It's just I couldn't end up canvassing because family comes first.
I was about to make a joke about it, but then you said family emergency and decided not to.
It's not that bad. It's kind of a youth.
Okay, he fell in. He slept in. That was it.
No,
he overslept.
It wasn't. It was something. It was something I effectively couldn't avoid.
Sure. No, I understand.
Yeah, he won the Cheshire seat at the general election in July last year with a 14,696 majority. So Reform did come second, however, which is a hell of a margin. Which is kind of the thing. A lot of people are kind of saying, "Oh, if Reform don't win this, it's really damaging to them." I'm going to be honest with you. If they manage to get that, even if they come second by like 1,000 or 2,000, like, closing the margin by 8,000, that's still pretty good. Or am I coping, chat? So, when asked if he thought it was inappropriate that he'd reportedly earned more than 30,000 since the assault, Amesbury defended continuing to take his wages. I mean, it is his job.
I kind of like this guy, to be honest.
What, 'cause he punched someone?
He's just a giga chad, isn't he? He just punches constituents, takes his money. Nah, it's my money. Fuck you.
Has he just been playing too much Kingdom Come Deliverance? Does he think he's a local lord?
Maybe. I don't. It was such a weird case because they were arguing about a bridge. I just don't understand why he punched him. I've not had details on what made him punch him.
Well, apparently it was something threatening, but then nothing corroborated it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was probably just his initial defence. I mean, he pled guilty. I imagine he was just drunk, wasn't he? So he spent 3 nights in prison, so that might be why they said he was jailed. Before his sentence was suspended, allowing him to serve time in the community. Campaigners called for him to be stripped of his pay after he was jailed. He also said he regretted attacking fellows every moment, every day. He said he would have attempted to remain an MP if he had been given a community sentence. He probably shouldn't have. Under parliamentary rules, a recall petition is triggered if an MP receives a custodial sentence. If 10% of his constituents have voted to remove him, a by-election would have been called. Amesbury told the BBC, "I'm going to step aside at the earliest opportunity. I've got processes I must go through. There is a statutory process in terms of redundancies." He said that although the fallout from the case is difficult, he owns his mistake. I don't know why you like the guy. He's Labour.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Chester's Magistrate Court were told that Amesbury had shouted, "Don't threaten your MP. You won't threaten your MP again, will you, you effing soft lad?"
You see, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, but again, even well, no, this isn't even a joke. This is just a threat. Again.
Yeah, there's no ifs or buts about it, really.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of would. The thing is that threatening an MP, does that mean do this or I won't vote for you? Did he take that as a threat? Interesting one. Richard Darby, defending, said that Amesbury had suffered embarrassment and shame as a result of his actions. Well, that's good. But he believed he believed that he was being threatened at the time of the attack. Sorry, but everyone's seen that CCTV. Nobody believes that. He was drunk.
No. When the guy was on the ground, he was a real dangerous threat.
Oh, he was good with his feet, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Is it too soon to make a George Floyd joke, or shall I? Actually, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll just leave. I'll let that one sit.
Yeah, so that's what we have here. We've got a by-election coming up, fellas. Are you all ready? Are you all looking forward to that?
What's a by-election?
It's just an election that happens outside of a general election. So because
okay.
Yeah, so it's normal electoral procedure. It's just for a specific constituency because of extenuating circumstances or whatever. So there you go.
Right.
I don't know if I actually use that word correctly, but if certain conditions are met, if an MP dies, you have a by-election, say, because you need to replace him. So can't blame the Tories.
Is that the same as like? So I think of local and general elections. I'm assuming that local election just means by-election, right? Or
local election is councils.
Okay.
General election is every constituency. I don't know what they call devolution elections. Actually, I guess I'll find out next year. Was it? No, yeah, next year. Is it this year? When's the? I think it's next year. The Welsh elections. So, yeah, you've got devolved elections as well, I guess. But yeah, that's how it all works. Right.
Was it the Welsh or was it the Irish where they kept making them re-vote until they got the right answer?
The Irish.
That was the Irish.
That was the Irish.
I think that happened in Belgium as well. That was EU.
Gotcha. Yeah. Absolute meme.
Yeah. So, Badenoch claims BBC Arabic channel gives platform to hate and terror. All right.
True.
That is a bad picture. She actually looks like
Lighting's
Bugs Bunny.
good.
She actually looks like Bugs Bunny.
The film? No, the lighting's fine.
Yeah.
I can't say.
That's a bad picture. So she's called for.
Just her face harrying. Go on.
So she's called for a wholesale reform of the BBC Arabic channel after a report accused it of appalling anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias. The Conservative leader wrote to Tim Davie, the Director General, to set out concerns about the World Service channel on Friday, weeks after warning that her party will withdraw its support for the licence fee if the BBC fails to tackle her concerns about bias. Again, it's just another one of these things. You were there for 14 years.
Yeah.
You were there for 14 years and you didn't do anything. It's such a silver bullet.
Yeah.
They can't do anything about it. Get wrecked, Tory boy, in chat. So the BBC chair, Samir Shah, said last week that the fiasco surrounding the BBC documentary Gaza's How to Survive a War Zone had been a dagger in the heart of impartiality. The programme's narrator was the son of Hamas minister. They didn't vet it properly. It's so. I think it was it wasn't just it was Minister for Agriculture or something like that. It's just crazy that they didn't manage to vet that. Badenoch's letter came after a report from the media watchdog, the Committee for Accuracy in Middle Eastern Reporting and Analysis, or CAMRA. Oh God. Again, this is another quango, by the way, which accused the channel of anti-Israel bias, toxic anti-Semitism, and the promotion of Hamas propaganda. I'm wondering as well, did this, because I think it was actually shown on the BBC, was this shown before that woman at Ofcom was kicked out for being too anti-Semitic? The one who went over to Twitch, if you remember. Does nobody know this? Does nobody know this deep lore? Yeah, there was some woman who worked for Ofcom for ages, and she ended up getting fired because she was too anti-Semitic. And then,
I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of women on Twitch, but you're going to have to narrow this one down.
Oh no, she works at Twitch as head of trust and safety or something like that. Like content moderation.
Hassan Piker.
A lot less interested.
Okay.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was on.
Is she at least in in the hot tub section or whatever they've got now?
She's not a Twitch streamer. She just works there.
Oh no, I've definitely lost interest.
She's the one who says Hassan Piker isn't banned.
Sorry. Tory will keep saying.
Can we put that under international news? The whole Hassan being banned and then not banned.
Oh, that's
my
everywhere
word.
on the internet.
Hey, it was a whole 26 hours. Come on.
Yeah.
Very serious.
Asman gets a lot of flack, but he took his full ban. What was it, 1-2 weeks? He took it like a Chad. He cleaned his house up. Hassan just bitched full of. Sorry, wrong street.
He's already said fucking. It doesn't matter.
I'm trying.
No, thank you for trying. To be fair.
Um, you know,
Go on.
but he you know, he whined and he complained and he you know, scrunched his eyes up and they unbanned him after like a day.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So-
Yeah, well, I mean, the next one who should be banned is Denims because she's basically told people to send CPS onto not her son, onto H3H3, and
Oh yeah, that was the crazy, absolute balmy lady. She
oh, she's nuts. She's got a black hole for her head, and she just
Yeah,
gets her tits out, and that's a whole Twitch stream. She's an actual idiot, like firmly in the
but they're
double
not even that
digits.
wait, I'm not saying that as a married man, but
No, I know what you mean, yeah. But there's a lot of simps on Twitch, aren't there? But yeah, she was basically
true, yeah.
encouraging her audience to get the child protection services on Ethan, and some of them turned up. So she should be banned permanently
Yeah.
for that, frankly, but she won't be because I don't understand it, especially given that it's owned by Amazon. I don't get why Amazon don't do anything about it. It just must make
yeah.
them too much money to like.
from what I understand, it's that the Hassan is actually cushy with the CEO of Twitch specifically.
Yeah, they're friends.
That's from what I understand.
Well, it's not.
He's
well,
been on his stream before and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, like
Yep.
I've seen the H3H3 content nukes. Like that is damning for both Twitch and Hassan. But yeah, but what I mean is like Twitch is owned by Amazon, so Jeff Bezos is right at the top. So like,
Wait, Harry, what are you saying? Damning? Do you not like One Piece?
I mean, what I
That's gonna
like,
be real.
I like.
That's
I
gonna be
don't
really
know, I've not
obscure. I'll be
seen it.
amazed if you get that reference.
I mean, I've never watched One Piece, but I know it's a reference to that terrorist. he
Yar
interviewed.
diddly dee.
Yeah,
That's Lazy Town.
literally, he interviewed a terrorist or the terrorist
Yeah.
guy and was like, "Oh, you know, do you like One Piece?" You know, he's like, "Oh yes, Luffy. You know, I'm a pirate just like Luffy or whatever." And I just remember it's one of the very few times in my life that I've been embarrassed for being an anime fan. You know,
Yo, chat, this guy is Luffy.
yeah, that was it. Oh, this guy's yeah.
Just-
Oh my, I actually cringed.
Who's more sympathetic to terrorists, the BBC or a sandpiper?
Oh wait, no, you're missing someone. We need to put Corbyn in there as well.
No, Corwin, of course.
Yeah. We should do like a
Oh,
top Trump
no one
score,
beats
terrorist
Corbyn.
sympathies. Yeah.
But yeah, but this whole story was just again damning for the BBC. They just let it slip through their vetting system that the narrator of one of their biggest shows on one of their biggest productions on Gaza was related to a Hamas minister. Just
Well, you think they didn't know? You think this just slipped past?
I would put this down to incompetence on the BBC.
I put this a
And I
little bit
think-
column A, a little bit
really?
column
I
B.
wouldn't- I would not. Well, it depends who's at different levels of the vetting, I suppose. But I'm more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I give it like an 80-20 rule, but I'm not sure which way puts which. I sort of liken it a little bit to that Canadian, was it the Canadian one that had the SS officer guy
God, that
from,
came through.
because they thought that he was like a Ukrainian
that was so
patriot
good.
or something.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah,
like, he was literally in the SS, or was it SS or
Yeah.
SA or something like that?
Yeah, the SS. Yeah, the Ukrainian SS. It's like,
Yeah.
oh. And he was actually still wanted for war crimes.
It's just like, I can believe after that, I can believe that people are, the vetting has its limits.
I mean, that one though, like they even
was
introduced
impressive.
him as during the 40s. This man fought against Russia. Wait.
It's true.
Oh, hold on, have you thought about that? You know what that means, right?
Yeah, no, I've heard was it horror stories against. It was one of those very, like how sometimes you make a nuanced take that people don't necessarily appreciate. One of them for me was when I said, "Have you ever considered why the Azov battalion exists? Why is it that
Mhm.
you've got tyrants on both sides, and yet you decide to side with one of them over the other? Like, how bad did the Russians have to be for you to think, maybe the Nazis aren't so bad?" It's one of those nuanced points that people just don't like to square.
The Polish are generally correct in this of fuck both Nazis and communists.
100%.
We've suffered under both. Fuck 'em both. Never again.
100%. 100%. But yeah, sorry to derail that point, but I just thought that it was to the yeah, we're switching to a different article.
Yes, Stammer has gone far right. He's doing welfare cuts.
Oh, sweet.
So, Kiss, go on.
What if this has all just been like a massive bait and switch, and he's just going to start this mass deportations, just starts deregulating all of the businesses.
Yeah, AA was right. Base Starmer is a thing. It just took a while.
Could you imagine just the biggest bait and switch?
Keir Starmer told Labour MPs that he was not afraid of taking tough decisions on welfare to save a wasted generation of young people as he sought to persuade backbenchers of the need for overhaul sickness benefits. Sorry,
he hasn't. He hasn't. He's just said he's not afraid of it. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, but people are going nuts over it as if he's killed Granny or something. So
I mean, give him time. He'll get around to it.
He did try. She survived the winter.
I'm not. Yeah. Sorry, but I just want to point out again.
I mean, the night of the pillow will come.
Night of the pillow. Be night of the broken granny. No, that's grim.
So the what was I going to say? Yeah, not that I am in any way against welfare cuts. However, I do just want to point out the ridiculousness that we have 18 billion that we can spend to give away to the Chagos Islands, but apparently he can't find, he could stop that and save himself from this welfare cut, but he'd literally rather give money and our land away. So, let's not pretend
I hear correctly?
that it's based.
It's a bit of a detour, but did I hear correctly that the US is going to try and veto that?
Well, yeah, but then he was over. Well, that was the original rumor, and then when Storm was over there charming Mr. Trump, Trump said, people are missing an important point here. He said, we'll probably go along with the deal, but it's too early to actually say because we don't know the details of it yet. So I would take that as Trump was just trying to, charm or let Starmer hear what he wanted to hear. So I think it's still pretty much hopefully not going to happen, but I don't know if it's 50-50 or 70% it's not going to happen. I don't know.
Well, if worse comes to worse, you could just tip all the money into the sea if it just makes him feel better. Sorry, Tharium, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, it's funny how much Trump likes us while he just hates Canada.
Maybe he'll like Canada more if it went back to Britain.
I mean, what you're saying, mass deportations for the French?
Well, Quebec can go back to France.
Just wall it off.
The sea.
But no. For the Quebecois, they can go back to France. Because the failure of Canada is expecting a nation with French and English to work.
I mean,
yeah,
one of my best friends who's French actually did go back to France not that long ago. So maybe your theory is actually holding up. Maybe the French and the English just cannot commingle.
I mean, I was going to say Trudeau's French, but he's actually Cuban, so that doesn't play
yeah, this is true. Please.
Well,
make
he's
sure that you're
a
sensitive
halfling.
about.
Oof.
Well, yeah.
So Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, is expected to meet Labour MPs this week to make the case for a contentious package of reforms that will impose more than £5 billion of cuts and require the long-term sick to prepare for work. While 36 MPs have supported the plans, saying that there was a moral duty to reform welfare, Starmer faces questions and unease is widespread among backbenchers. Ministers fear
What is this moral duty?
Well, there's a moral duty to reform welfare. I am not sure what makes it a moral duty. I think it's a fiscal duty.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused on that. Sorry, carry on.
I don't know what the moral duty is. I don't know why they say that necessarily. Ministers fear a row that will split the Labour Party. Oh, fingers crossed. Critics of reform have said it will... Sorry, not reform the party, the welfare reforms. Said that it was too soon to establish the scale of discontent between MPs who were waiting to see the details. So yeah, possible Labour split. I think the details of it are I think they're making a cut to universal credit. They're making it harder to get on PIP, and they're freezing PIP so it doesn't go up with inflation for a year. And if anyone follows Max Tempers, you'll know how much of a joke PIP is, because it basically seems that everyone who actually needs it has a really hard time getting on it, and people who are scam artists know how to get it straight away.
I bet every boat wanker will still get all full benefits.
Oh yeah, probably. So anyway, the only reason I'm skipping through these is because I've just realised it's 10:15. Well, there's cat-sized rats as bin workers go on strike. Striking bin men near HS2 construction site have led to residents in one area of Birmingham being plagued with destructive giant vermin. And unfortunately it's not loaded the rats, but
is Birmingham just turning into Tutorial Island from RuneScape back in the day? That's an obscure reference if anyone knows it.
Yeah, you had to kill a load of rats, didn't you? I think that's
it was what.
I think that's the place I best know in RuneScape because of all the new accounts I created because I kept forgetting passwords.
Oh, Tutorial Island. Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah. Nada B and her husband Ali have spent thousands of pounds repairing the damage that rats have caused to their back garden in Ward End, Birmingham. Most recently, £9,000 on a new garden shed as the gigantic.
That's pretty racist of them to say that.
What do you mean? The gigantic rat. The thing is that it was actually Mercian they're talking about. The gigantic rats they see running around in broad daylight gnawed through the wood of their previous one and built a nest underneath it. They're massive.
Oh, they're getting carried away now, aren't they?
Yeah. They're massive. Even my cat is scared of them, says Nada 48. My husband had to block off the fence as they ate through it. Small rat traps won't do, so I had to buy cages off Amazon. My God, how big are these? Are you sure they're not just cats?
Yeah, just really mangy cats.
Oh my God. Birmingham City Council introduced a £24 surcharge for visits from pest controllers, a so-called rat tax. Oh my God, it's The Simpsons, like the bear tax. Imagine if Birmingham City Council started blaming it on illegal immigrants. Half the city would be deported.
I just did.
Residents say recent standoff between striking refuse collectors and the Labour-run council, which is in financial crisis after it declared itself effectively bankrupt in September 2023, has made matters far worse. So too has the vast HS2 construction site just across the road.
This isn't the first time that they've been bankrupt either, is it?
I think what I remember. No, it's really rare you've kind of had a string of bankruptcies and they were dead rare for the past kind of century. They've only just started really to happen now, and a lot of the time it's to do with these equality lawsuits. So that's what happened here anyway. I mean, I've heard other cases of like, oh, it's because they spent so much on Oracle, but they owe £1 billion for these court cases, and the Oracle thing, I think they overspent by like 120 million or something like that. It's pretty obvious which one's caused the issue in that case. Anyway, NHS job cuts up to 7,000 posts to go as West Streeting takes charge. Yay! Half all central NHS staff face losing their job after Labour government seizes control of the health service. It will slash up to 7,000 office-based jobs as part of the plan to shrink central bureaucracy and divert resources to frontline care. This will give the Department of Health and Social Care greater oversight of the day-to-day running of the health service and with duplicated jobs eradicated under the plans. Let's hope so. That's actually that actually sounds like he's done a bit of what Liz Truss wanted to do. It sounds like he's getting rid of a quango to bring it more in line with Parliament. So well done, Wes, I suppose. The NHS told staff on Monday that leaders would be looking at ways of radically reducing the size of the NHS England that could see the centre decrease by around half. The staff cuts are part of a wider government shake-up of Whitehall being announced this week to reduce the ballooning size of the state. So I assume this is the 5% cut that they're all trying to do, which I want to point out was reform policy in their contract. So, is everyone happy that the NHS is being reformed? It's small, but it's something.
I'm wondering if I'm wondering again. Maybe this is just my copium or just the way my brain works, but I'm wondering if the whole Doge thing is actually you know, it's anchoring again. It's making this more acceptable now because governments are just seeing how much money they can save with it. Do you reckon that the people are against it because they, in the same way the Doge is digging up essentially lots of fraud? Do you reckon that there's lots of people who are just not wanting people to mess with this stuff as well because of just all the fraud it will dig up?
I think this is just the easiest thing to do because I think Wes Streeting knows that the central bureaucracy is not going to actually be doing much. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if he did a kind of audit and was like, what's kind of the most useless sector here, and or maybe he looked at the values himself. I don't know because I can't imagine if he asked NHS England's head office to do an audit, they'd say we're the most useless part. It's like when I think it's a Rory Sutherland story. He's a marketing guy, if you don't know. But there was some company that hired a team of auditors to see what the least cost-effective part of the company was, and they did the whole thing, found out it was themselves, and then excluded themselves from the results. So, you know, it could also be that the stats taking place is probably awful, but who knows? I don't know, but. Yeah. Clearly, the Labour government are having to go through a kind of phase of austerity where it's actually making cuts for once. So, at least that's something.
I mean, I would actually like the NHS to do better.
Yeah.
But I think that for it to do better, we don't have an alternative to it at the moment. So, for the time being, we need to make it as good as we can. And I think that one easy way is to stop wasting so much money with just the obscene amounts of bureaucracy and waste that there is in the NHS, which I don't think is a particularly radical view.
Oh, it is if you're Labour.
Well, which makes it all the more delicious that they're the ones having to make the cuts.
Anyway, BBC spent 1.3 million investigating Hugh Edwards' scandal. I just don't understand how it took that much. So it was 1.3 million for investigations into the scandal and the review of the complaints procedures. Well, that costs so much.
Yeah.
1 million was sent to a consultancy firm. There's part of a reason that I stopped being a consultant is because I felt useless. I just want to say that.
You're on the wrong consultancy place. Should have been at this place, getting millions.
Well, true. True.
I mean, it just print, or at least it used to just print money. So I guess there's that.
I'd love to be working for a consultancy and the BBC comes to me and goes, we'd like you to investigate if one of us is a nonce. Yep. Yep, he is. Then I'll take my £1 million, please.
Yeah, just writes, yes, signed, Tharium. Yeah. Right, there we go.
Yes, the person who asked me to do this is too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hugh Edwards, he should be in jail. He's not. Great. Private schools.
Wait.
What?
Oh, he avoided jail time? Oh, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, Hugh Edwards is in jail. Yeah, he got a suspended sentence. I'm pretty sure.
That, yeah.
Have any of the ones that have been found out actually? Has there been any jail or arrest or whatever? Because I'm just thinking about stuff like, was it Gary Glitter and whatever, and the Jimmy Savile stuff? They didn't even talk about that stuff until after he was already dead.
What about
all the stuff coming out now?
What about the dog guy at the BBC?
Oh, the statue.
No, the guy who was.
What did he do to the dog?
So he had some child porn, and he was also videoed himself raping dogs.
Oh, why dog? And also,
that was the guy who made the statue outside the BBC.
No. This was one of their reporters.
I want to clarify, chat. I'm also disgusted about the children, but my gut for some reason was upset about the dogs.
I mean, the videos weren't of him with children, at least, but the dogs were. It's like, Christ.
Why?
See, the BBC should have been shut down then.
Yeah, this guy was more recent. He was 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
I like dogs.
It's like just all the BBC. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet they'll still send, was it? They'll still send goons to your door because you're not subsidizing them.
Did you see?
Excuse me,
they,
Oh,
TV license.
did you see
You
they
got
want?
license of that Netflix.
yeah.
Yeah, did you see that?
It's
They
like-
want to add a tax to Netflix because some people just have Netflix, so they're not paying
Yeah.
for the BBC. No, you will pay for the BBC through Netflix now.
It's like, what happened to USAID? Why don't you? Why do you need money from me?
So, private school teacher takes second job after VAT on fees bite. So, survey of 4,000 teachers and 750 support staff by the National Education Union found that almost a third had taken on additional paid work because of financial pressures. Of those who took part in the 9% in the survey, 9% of teachers and 29% of support staff were doing overtime, and 35% of teachers and 56% of support staff had taken a second job. I'm not being funny. I mean, 35% of teachers sounds like a lot, but support staff probably would need a second job anyway, I'd imagine.
Well, isn't it a part-time role?
Yeah, I think
Am
so.
I misunderstanding it?
Yeah, I think support staff usually is, because that's usually like teaching assistants, I would imagine. I don't know. Private tuition was being offered by 64% of teachers and 20% of support staff. That probably makes sense. Do you support charging VAT on private schools out of
The Times
57,000?
readers are retards.
No. We're on that side. We don't support VAT
No.
on schools.
But do you support? Oh, I'm reading the wrong way. I'm the retard.
I was going to say, what do you mean? Teachers said that they were working as nannies or babysitters to supplement their wages. One teacher, I now have to tutor as I can't afford to live on my teacher's salary alone after 20 years of being in the profession. I'm kind of like, is this because of pay cuts from the VAT? It's not really said, has it? It's just said they're taking it up. It's not really saying why they actually have to do it. 45% of support staff receive less than the state sector minimum pay rise of 2.5%. One person told the survey, so they're probably not getting the raises that they were expecting because of this big issue of the VAT. I'm assuming that's what it's saying. So, rip being a teacher. This is one for you, Tharium. Energy bills could fall by £250 a year if you live near a new pylon project. So, Yimbyism wins, Tharium. Did I lose connection? No, I'm here. Did Tharium lose connection?
Yeah, I can't hear Tharium. Though, to be fair, £250 a year actually wouldn't reduce my bills that much.
Well, I imagine you consume more energy than the average person, to be fair.
I do, yeah.
So you'd actually probably save more than that.
I mean, I'm listening.
Well, okay.
I mean, they could just charge me less. There's always that.
Well, they could.
They could have made nuclear power plants back in, was it 2016? But, let's not say things that will make me angry.
Oh, this isn't actually a bad idea. Thousands of residents living near the electric pylons could be given up to £2,500 off their bills as ministers overhaul planning rules to push through new development and home building. Under the plans to be set out this week, households living within half a kilometre of new or upgraded power infrastructure could see their average electricity bill fall by almost 40% a year. The move is intended to reduce opposition to renewable energy infrastructure. Hang on, this
I
just
love
said
that.
pylon projects.
Renewable energy is just so ugly that you actually have to pay people to live near it.
Well, I think, as I always say, I think people's biggest issue with all this, well, one is the fact that they don't feel like they're getting enough for what they're sacrificing, in this case, a nice scenery. But also I think it's because at the back of everyone's minds, they're like, oh, this is benefiting like a lot of people who shouldn't be here. I think that's at the back of a lot of people's minds as well, which I think is totally legitimate, by the way. But just so I can be Tharium, no, I absolutely hate pylons. I hate this renewable infrastructure. So,
I also hate it. I hate it when it's going across the countryside. That actually, that is something that maybe I've changed since I've become old, and that is a perspective that I have come up to. Yeah. Oh, hey, Tharium.
Oh, sorry, Tharium.
All you need to do is go to London like once, and then you appreciate the countryside for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
Yeah, I got convinced. I got converted because once upon a time I was the kind that wanted to have a penthouse in Canary Wharf or whatever.
Ooh.
But no, now I know, and I wanted to be successful and all that stuff, and now I'm just like, you couldn't pay me to, or at least you'd have